Good evening and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Wednesday, the 19th of December, 2012. I'm Tony Paniagua. We all know about the tremendous role that our emotions have on our lives, but what about the impact that feelings like depression may have had on the evolution of human development? Next, we'll hear from a professor at the University of Arizona about this topic. Here is Mark McLemore with that interview.
And I'm joined now by Dr. Charles Raison, and we're going to talk about a study that he co-authored, which finds an interesting link between depression and the immune system, and also its overall impact on human evolution. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
My pleasure.
Well, tell us, how did the idea for this line of research originate?
Yeah. It originated in a paradox, and the paradox is that depression is this horrible illness. There's all sorts of evidence that it really damages people and that being happy and optimistic are really good for you. And yet the genes for depression appear to be extremely common. So for genes to be common, it's just a law of evolution. They must be doing something good. Lots of people have tried to find what that good is. Usually they try to find some secret good thing socially about depression. We realized that there may be another explanation, which is that rather than helping people deal with other people, depression might be helping people deal with bugs, help fight infection. And if so, that might be why it's been retained in the human genome.
Well, on the surface, when I hear your findings, it makes me think that when we get sick, we often get depressed.
Yes.
That can keep us home, away from other people, for instance, would be one effect of that.
That's true. And it turns out that when you're sick, you're actually, not only does that maybe protect other people from getting infected, but it also may protect you. When you're sick with one virus or bug, you become much more vulnerable to others. And so, for instance, isolating yourself may also be protective to the individual. If you've got a virus infection, you're more likely to die of a bacteria infection, vice versa. So isolation is a classic example of a symptom that depression and sickness share that probably promotes survival. Exactly.
How did you go about conducting the study? Who were your test subjects?
It wasn't a matter of test subjects. It was a matter of basically reviewing the world's literature. So I and Andy Miller at Emory spent 6 months reading, every possible study about the genetics of depression, about whether symptoms that are common in depression help you fight infection. And we assembled it all into this massive review. And that's the paper you're talking about. So it wasn't a study where we actually made people sick and studied them. We basically pooled the world's literature together. Much of our own literature, we'd spent a decade studying how the immune system makes people depressed, which is interesting. Why should the immune system, why should that make people depressed? And this fits with that idea.
Well, tell us more about that. How does the connection work in reverse in terms of the immune system being the cause or spur for depression?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all over the world, being sick is the #1 risk factor for depression. We spent a decade studying people who would take a drug that turns on sickness, turns on inflammation, and it makes 50% of people completely clinically depressed and almost everybody kind of depressed. And we've been able to show that it activates sickness, inflammation. The immune system changes the brain exactly the same way that stress does. And we think that it changes the brain in that way because overall the changes help the body battle infection. It did, at least across evolutionary time.
Well, let's talk about that too. The overall impact of this on human evolution, how has it affected things?
Well, the prediction would be that the kind of genes that put up risk for depression, that drive depressive symptoms, helped populations survive infection in times across millions of years when almost everybody died of infection. We forget that nowadays 50% of people that ever lived were dead by the age of 15 of infectious causes. Especially in infancy, activity in the pathways that are most likely to make you depressed, the immune pathways most likely to make you depressed, are absolutely essential for infants surviving infection. And again, in most cultures, in most times, almost the majority of infants be dead in the first 2 years of life.
Well, thinking about the way that emotion and the immune system has usually been characterized in the past, as you mentioned at the top of the interview, there's an emphasis on being happy, that positive emotions are healthy. So can you kind of explain how you see a balance between these two factors?
Mm-hmm. Well, it brings psychiatry into connection with public health, oddly, because it sort of suggests that the types of immune activity that protects you against infection may also promote depression, unhappiness, anger, irritability. If you want to turn down those immune responses, you can't be counting as much on the immune system to save your life. You have to count on medicine, cleanliness, sanitation. So, that's this sort of interesting wrinkle. And there's animal data to suggest that if you do things to animals that we think are good for emotional health, it can increase their risk of dying of virus infection. There's little known data, but it's quite remarkable, consistent with this idea that there's a trade-off between maybe happiness and surviving infection across evolutionary time.
Well, at this point, what do you think are some of the clinical applications of these findings?
Well, in general, understanding the evolutionary reasons for depression might have huge clinical applications. For instance, there's increasing evidence that depression is increasing in the modern world, and part of that may be because we've gotten so clean that we removed ourselves from contact with many, many organisms, parasites and little bugs that were always with us, and that we co-evolved to let us sort of train our immune systems a certain way. Now, in the modern world, lacking that training, people tend to run their inflammation high. And there's some evidence that if you reintroduce those ancient microorganisms, it may actually work for an antidepressant. We and others are actually trying to begin to study this. We never understand why that should be, that exposing people to ancient bugs might help their depression, unless we understood that we'd always had those bugs with us and that they played this key role in training the immune system to function properly, to avoid the kind of excesses that we know increase the risk for depression.
Well, can you briefly tell us how this research has been received?
When I first started talking about this stuff 10 years ago, people thought I was crazy. 5 years ago, they were interested. A year ago, they were dying. They want to, it's the hottest thing right now. So there's been a really interesting and positive reception that's grown over time.
Well, thanks for sharing a view on this research with us,
My pleasure.
Dr. Raison.
This week, we have been introducing you to several Arizonans who served in the military during World War II. And tonight we continue these conversations. Michael Chihak has an interview with a veteran whose brother also served, but who lost his life while enlisted in the Navy.
December 7th, 1941. What do you remember about that day?
Well, my brother and I had just graduated in June of 41, and then came Pearl Harbor, and he enlisted right away and was reported for duty in January of. But I was working, he was working too. And I was at the telephone company in Montclair, New Jersey. And I was working from 7 to 4. And I had got back from lunch at 12 o'clock. And then a little bit before, well, about 1 o'clock, the switchboard lit up. We couldn't take the calls. There were so many of them. And it was Sunday. And our chief operator and our supervisor had the intelligence to know they had to do something. So they got some extra workers to come in, and one of them brought a radio. And we heard what was happening. Then we realized. And of course we were crying and upset and everything, and I got off at 4. And in the trolley car on the way home, there were people crying, and one man, his son was in Hawaii at the time, Honolulu, and another woman, some relative of hers was a nurse there in I guess Hickam Field or something, and it was just tragic. And of course we heard the news, and then the next day, FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, president, asked Congress to declare war against Japan, and we realized a little bit, sort of. I was 18, and we realized a little bit that what war was coming to us. We really, there were people that were talking about what was going over in Europe, but we didn't understand. In school, we were told to hide under the desk. And then after that, I joined a group called the Watchers, and we went up on top of the post office building, and we would document whenever planes would go by, what time, where they came from, and of course we started scrap drives and everything, that we really understood a little bit more what war was. It hadn't really touched us.
Now, you said that your brother enlisted right away.
He enlisted right away.
And you attempted to enlist.
Oh, well, in July of 42, the waves, Navy waves, became, and he encouraged me to go down and join. So I did, but they wouldn't accept me because I wasn't 20. And you had to be in college or if you wanted to be younger. And otherwise you had to be 20. So on Monday, March the 8th, 1943, I was sworn in. And
that's your birthday.
that's my birthday. I was 20 years old that day. And I went to boot camp in New York and Hunter College in the Bronx. And then I scored so high in mechanics, they sent me to the NATTC, Naval Air Technical Training Center in Norman, Oklahoma. And while I was there, we got the telegram that my brother had been missing in action. And I graduated and went on home on leave. And while I was home on leave, on his 22nd birthday, November the 5th, we got the telegram. They did telegrams back then. Now they send somebody that he was really killed on that day, not missing in action.
And he was killed on a Navy vessel?
He was killed just before 9 o'clock, September the 11th, 1943, on a USS Savannah at Salerno, Italy. And he was buried off the coast of Malta. And now, after 70 years, I'm getting information that his name has been on a tablet of remembrance in the chapel of the Sicily, Rome, American Cemetery. Because of somebody read my poem, because I write poems, and an article, he got in touch with me, and he got in touch with the American Monument Association and got me the information and showed, and I now have a picture of that tablet and a picture of the cemetery that his name has been on there all these years and we never knew it.
Tell us your brother's name.
It's Arthur Jr. instead of Arthur Oscar. I've named Arthur Jr. Anderson, and he was electrician's mate, second class.
Now, how long did you stay home on leave when you got that news?
Well, I got there about November the 1st, and I left. They were going to get me special leave, and my father said, no, she's going to her station. And so I reported, I think it was November the 7th or 8th or something like that. And I was going to the Naval Air Station at Opelika.
In Florida?
In Florida.
And did you spend the rest of the war there?
Yes.
And what did you do there?
I was an aviation machinist mate, third class by then. And we had to work on the engines of combat planes, and that's where I was. Like I said, I didn't do much. My father said when I joined the Navy that she's not a wave, she's a ripple. And so I said, well, I was a ripple, but now I'm starting to make waves.
A Tucson-based performing arts group was one of just 10 recipients of the 2012 National Theater Company Award. The award acknowledges the Rogue Theater's dedication to producing and presenting a wide range of stage plays for local audiences. Next, Mark McLemore talks with two of the company's founding members about what's in store for the new year.
Right now, we're in the middle of Rogue Theater's 8th season, and here to talk about what's coming up in the coming months, we are joined by Cynthia Meier and Joe McGrath, who are both founding members of the Rogue Theater and are involved in many different aspects. So Cynthia, first of all, let's start by telling people about this award. What does it mean to your organization to be recognized like this?
Well, it's pretty exciting, first of all. The American Theater Wing is the founder of the Tony Awards, which is one of the biggest awards for live theater. And this award, the National Theater Company Award, is geared for smaller theaters across the country. And they choose 10 theater companies to receive this award every year. And it was just really an exciting thing for us to be chosen to receive the award. It's the basic idea of the award is that they want to honor theater companies that have articulated a distinctive mission and cultivated an audience and a group of artists. And so they felt we were deserving of the award.
And Joe, tell me, how do you think this will impact Rogue Theater's future? I understand that there's a grant attached.
There is a grant attached, and it was actually quite significant. It's a $10,000 award, and that's always very, very useful for a small theater company like ourselves. The recognition is very meaningful. It helps us in our fundraising, and it also helps us in our profile in the community, and in the talent that's available to us. You know, a lot of actors want to be with a successful and forward-moving theater company if they have a choice, and so we get to have some of the best actors in town come to us and want to spend their time with us, and we're very grateful for that. That's
Well, Cynthia mentioned that the building of repertoire was part, or repertory company was part of the qualifications for this. So tell us a little bit about the Rogue Theater family. How does it fit together, and about how many people are involved?
The family, the Rogue Theater family's probably got 1,500 people involved, because our supporters are every bit as much a part of our family as our actors and our board. We have a very strong board, and it's something that Cindy and I are very grateful for. And in the last 4 or 5 years, our board has really become quite professional and quite substantial. They're very substantial people. It's very interesting to sit in the board meetings with, and try to provide leadership to a round table full of leaders, and that's really quite wonderful. Our actors, many of them have been working with us for several years, but this year we put together an acting company of 11 actors who are in most of the season, and we're training one another, which is one of the delightful things about having a company. As we get together for training sessions, and we all have our various levels of training, and we get into these sessions and workshops, and we train one another with new techniques, and it's just fascinating, absolutely fascinating to work with all of those folks.
Well, since the inception of the Rogue Theater, would you say that you've seen the dream develop over these last 8 years and become what you hoped it would be?
Oh yeah, it really, truly has been a dream come true for both of us. When we began, we just sort of hoped that maybe this would work out, that we were doing plays that we wanted to do and that we thought should be done in Tucson. And then over the last 8 years, it's really blossomed into something that I think Tucson as a whole can be proud of. And we certainly are very proud of how it's moved along and where we are now.
Well, tell us about your next production.
Our next production is Mother Courage and Her Children by Bertolt Brecht. And it's one of the most significant plays of the 20th century. And Joe's actually directing the play, and I'm playing Mother Courage, the leading role. And it's a rich and interesting and in many ways difficult play. I'll let Joe talk more about it, though.
One of the most fascinating things about Bertolt Brecht and the plays of Bertolt Brecht is it's a theater of action. He wants to encourage us. He doesn't want to define what life or the spirit or world or the universe is about. He wants to show us what we're putting up with and why we shouldn't. And so it's very much a theater it's a revolutionary theater. It's a theater that says, this is the way things are. Are you happy with that? You're being part of this mess. Do you want to change that? And so it's really fascinating to take this different, it's a very slight but extremely significant difference in how you tell a story. you're constantly pulling out of it and reminding the audience that they're in a theater and they're watching a story, and they're watching it laid out in such a way that people are making choices along the way, as opposed to being the victims of fate or something like that. So it's really quite quite a challenging. It's much different and more challenging approach to acting than more conventional theater, where you stay within the scene and you don't pay attention to the audience. And it's really quite. It's a wonderful thing to be involved in right now.
That sounds like an interesting creative challenge to stage that. So Cynthia, tell our viewers where and when they can see the performances.
At the Rogue Theater, which is on University Boulevard in the historic Y, right near 4th Avenue. And it opens January 10th and runs through the 27th, and Thursday through Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, and online, your website is?
www.theroguetheater.org.
All right. Well, Cynthia, Joe, so nice to meet you. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Dancing in the Streets is a nonprofit organization that uses the discipline of ballet to teach new skills and experiences to children. Along with the Civic Orchestra of Tucson, they are presenting the Nutcracker Ballet this Saturday and Sunday at the Fox Tucson Theater. In our next segment, we'll tell you more about Dancing in the Streets.
If you ride the bus, you may have noticed one of the many bus shelter advertisements for the holiday performance of the Nutcracker. The production is being put on by Dancing in the Streets, a nonprofit dance studio located in South Tucson.
It's a ballet organization. We're here in the city of South Tucson to teach classical ballet to the kids, teens, and parents.
Joseph Rogers is co-artistic director of Dancing in the Streets. He's a professional dancer who grew up in the South Park neighborhood adjacent to South Tucson. He says dance provided him an opportunity to see beyond the oppressive social conditions of his old neighborhood.
There's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of drugs, gangs, all that stuff. And during that time, my mom put me in ballet, tried to keep me out of trouble, which really didn't help. But I kept up with it, and when I pursued my dance career, I moved, and then I came back to Tucson to take care of my dad, and I looked around, and there was nothing artistically dance-wise for the kids as of classical ballet. So that's when I figured I need to do something.
Doing something, in Rogers' mind, meant creating a dance studio that could provide children an exposure to the benefits of dance. He first voiced his concern over the lack of arts program for children at a town hall in 2009.
I got back in the old neighborhood, and the old gangbangers were there with their kids. And I got out there and taught them ballet in the middle of the street.
Since then, Dancing in the Streets has evolved into a multidisciplinary dance studio in one of Tucson's most disadvantaged communities.
We don't turn away any student. If the student is passionate enough to come and dance and wants to learn about ballet, they're welcome, and we'll take them with open arms. Now, once I get them in there, now they like going, oh, what did I sign up for?
Students that sign up for dance classes in this studio have an opportunity to learn classical ballet from a young age, and rehearsals culminate with elaborately produced dance performances.
We do an annual Nutcracker production, and we've got about 130 to 140 kids aged 3 to adult that perform.
Soleste Lupo is co-artistic director of Dancing in the Streets. She says her organization is currently preparing for its 5th Nutcracker, and for many of the kids and their families, the experience is their biggest and most significant exposure to the arts.
Not only do we just train kids, we train the parents. So I have a number of parents that have been with us since our first Nutcracker that I have trained as well. So I have my parent supervisors that run wardrobe supervising, they run costume changes, All of the racks you see behind me get sorted and organized and tagged and labeled. And when we're in the theater, they're by name, and the student knows which one they need to change, which one they go into.
Mounting a production is no easy task for any professional dance group, much less a nonprofit organization that exists on contributions from the community. And much of the success of Dancing in the Streets can be attributed to the passion that Soleste has for dance and the charisma of her husband, Joey Rogers.
I've known Joey since we were in ballet school together, so I was about 12, and I have to tell you that the gift that Joey has with children has been there his whole entire life. He is just a child magnet. He has an ability to relate everything into a game and making it fun, so the kids are working, but they don't really know they're working.
Dancing in the Streets has firmly established itself in South Tucson, and Rogers says families are now traveling from other parts of the city to bring their kids to dance class. According to him, the performance of the Nutcracker this weekend demonstrates the hard work of all the students and their families.
When we take them through that, I call it a journey of Nutcracker. When we take them through the journey of Nutcracker, of me yelling, screaming, make sure the kids are here, make sure the parents bring their kids on time, make sure all the kids have a costume. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of the changing of the mind.
You can find more information on our website about this weekend's Nutcracker performance at the Fox Theater. Just log on to azpm.org and follow the links.
You can get more news and information on our website, azpm.org. To comment on any story you saw tonight, click on it online and go to the bottom. We can also be reached via Facebook and Twitter. Coming up tomorrow night, helping out animals during the holidays. Saguaro National Park is offering a wilderness exploration camp for children, and a theater company in Tucson is the recipient of a national award. I'm Tony Paniagua from all of us at Arizona Public Media. Have a great night.